What's up, Dub Nation? Welcome back to the DubsIn4 Podcast. This is episode 21. Today is December 9th, 2018. And today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a power rankings episode today. But before that, we're going to be going over the Warriors week and what's up ahead. But we're going to do that a little bit quicker today just because we have a lot to get through in terms of power rankings. So we're just going to go through the week really quick. Nothing particularly crazy happened this week. Warriors win on Monday, 128-111 over the Hawks. Steph Curry went off, I believe, in that game. I mean, when is that any different? Curry had 30 points in 29 minutes, as you do. Wednesday against the Cavs, Warriors win 129-105. Nice game for Curry, 42 points, 9 and 7. So, great game from him. KD with 25, 10, and 9, so almost a triple-double there. Klay Thompson chipping in 16. I believe, Looney had some nice minutes off the bench. Alfonso McKinney returning to action after injury, so that was cool. And then Friday, yesterday, Warriors played the Bucks, won 105-95. So the Warriors are 3-0 this week. Beat the Bucks in Milwaukee, so that was good to see. Nobody really had a super high scoring night. It was kind of more of a team effort. KD only with 11. They kind of held him down a little bit. Had a poor shooting night, but Curry and Thompson both with 20. Andre Iguodala season high 15 points. Jerebko with 12, chipping in as well. Alfonso McKinney had a nice 9. So 3-0 this week, finishing out the road trip. Solid. Against two bad teams and one really good one. So that's about what you would expect from them. I'm impressed with the way that they played against the Bucks, even especially with KD struggling. So this coming week, the Warriors have 3 games: 2 at home, 1 on the road. Tomorrow they're playing the Timberwolves at home, so that'll be a good one. Nice to have Draymond Green back. Kerr says he will play tomorrow, so they are pretty much going to be basically at full strength. Everybody will be back from injury aside from Damian Jones, but that's going to be an extended absence for him, so they're going to have to work without him for quite a while. So they should have Draymond back, and Boogie is on the horizon. We just got the news that he will be practicing with the G League team this week. Most likely he will play with them on Friday. Their next game is not until Friday, so he will most likely play with them pretty soon and be practicing with them until he does make enough progress to return to the big leagues. So that's coming up pretty quick. He may return right around Christmas time, so that's just in about 2 weeks from now. A little over 2 weeks, so that's exciting. We could have DeMarcus Cousins in the lineup pretty soon, so that's cool. On Wednesday, rematch against the Raptors. That could be a potential finals preview. We will see, but that one, rematch of a game that happened a couple weeks ago. Warriors lost in overtime behind a 51-point game from KD. So it was close, but yeah, they did lose. That was without Steph and Draymond. So presumably, barring anything unforeseen, the Warriors will be basically at full strength on Wednesday against Toronto at home. So that one should go the other way. But we will see how well the Raptors play. Hopefully, the Warriors can pull out a win there. And then Friday, they have the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento, so that one should be interesting. Kings aren't that great, but you know what? They're a lot better than we thought they were going to be. Before the season, I said they were the worst team in the league. I do not think that anymore. Obviously, they're 13-12 now, so that's at least a little bit of a challenge. And on the road, it's never a gimme game, so we'll see how they played there. But those are 3 games this week, so Warriors are riding a nice 3-game win streak. We'll see if we can extend that to 6, and with that, we're going to move on to my little tier list. So, I do tier lists a little bit differently. I do power rankings a little bit differently in the form of a tier list. So, a lot of people will rank teams 1 through 30, give them like an exact placement. I prefer not to do it that way. I feel like you can easily separate teams into categories rather than separating them all out individually. It's hard, to differentiate between the, difference between the 14th best team and the 15th best team right now. Like, honestly, it really doesn't matter that much. So I prefer to put them into groups rather than put them, into specific slots. So teams are not ordered within their tier. This is based on how they've played this season up to this point, factoring in expectations along with the reality of their record, what's been going on with them. And so basically, that's that. I've separated them into, 6 different categories. And we're just going to go from the bottom up, I guess. So first of all, I call this the gutter trash tier. Basically, there's 4 teams down here who are competing for the number 1 overall draft slot. Realistically, there could be 5, but I think this one team is a little bit above, so I put them in the tier above. But right here we have the Bulls, Hawks, Cavs, and Suns. Pretty much, nobody's going to debate this one. These 4 teams are all really bad. Suns are the only one from the Western Conference. Everybody else in the West is realistically a shot to make the playoffs right now. The Suns are terrible, as are the Cavs, Hawks, and Bulls. Bulls lost by 56 points to the Celtics the other night. Hawks and Cavs are both 6-20. Suns are 4-22. So, pretty bad records all around. Not much else to say there. And then this next tier up only has 2 teams, but I call it the not terrible but no playoffs tier. There's 2 teams, both based in New York City. We have the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks from the Eastern Conference. Both of like I was mentioning earlier, I think the Knicks could be down, but right now I don't know. I just for some reason don't see them as quite as bad as these other 4 teams down there. Don't ask me why. They do have 2 more wins. They're 8-20. But realistically, that doesn't matter too much. I just have a little bit of a feeling. I haven't watched too many Knicks games. Honestly, I haven't watched too many games of these teams down here in the first place. Because why would you, right? They're not that good. But I do think that the Knicks are a little bit better. Not really sure why I have that opinion, but I do. And I'm going to stick to that for some reason. So yeah, but the Nets, I do think that the Nets are definitely a step above these other teams below them. They're on a little bit of a skid. They started off the season pretty well, and they've lost, a lot of their past, 12 of their past 14, something like that. They haven't been playing super well. They've blown leads. They've, lost in overtime stuff. It hasn't been a great stretch for them. But they fight hard. They've got a lot of good players, scrappy players. They'll play to the end, so Nets are not a pushover for sure. But I don't see them as a threat to make the playoffs right now. So then after that, these next 2 tiers honestly could be flipped. I know this doesn't give you too much of a clarity. This is kind of just obviously where these teams are standing right now, but it gives a little bit of my opinion here. So here's what I'm going to say. I have the good but confusing tier, which are basically teams that are really good right now that I was not expecting to be good. And then I have the on the bubble tier, which are teams that I knew were going to be good, but maybe they're not quite as good as they should be. Basically, right now in the NBA, we have a huge logjam in the middle, right? We have those 5 teams that are clearly, towards the bottom of the standings, and then we have probably 8 or 10 teams who are at the top, who we know are going to make the playoffs, that are playing, relatively well given the players that they have, what their team's looking like right now, their opponents that they faced. We have 8 or 10 teams that are, I would consider playoff locks, and then everybody else is kind of just sitting in the middle right now. So we're going to go over this, maybe go a little bit more in depth on some of these teams, but I'm going to actually go into the on the bubble tier first. These are all teams that preseason people were expecting to at least have a pretty good chance to make the playoffs, and right now they're not. They're either not in the playoffs or they're sitting right in those 7, 8, 9 spots. So I have the Blazers, Timberwolves, Pelicans, Spurs, Jazz, Rockets, Hornets, Heat, and Wizards. That's a lot. That's a lot to throw in there. But I guess I'll just break this down really fast. Out of all these teams, the best record is the Trailblazers. Although right now, they are the 7th seed in the Western Conference. Sitting at 15-11. They're only, 2 games ahead of the Mavericks. They're half game behind the Grizzlies. They're 1 game behind the Lakers. It's so jam-packed in the middle of the Western Conference right now that the Blazers were the 1 or the 2 for a couple weeks to start the year. They started off hot. They lost 3 out of 4 at some point, and then, they've dropped down. So, just that's how close it is. I didn't see them as a playoff lock preseason, and I still don't see them that way right now. That's why they're here. But basically because of the emergence of the Mavericks, the Kings, the Clippers, the Nuggets, pretty much every single team in the Western Conference is playing well right now except for Phoenix. And if all of them keep that up, any team could make the playoffs. And so I had probably a list of 9 or 10 teams before the season that could make it. Now that list is 14. So that means that, 6 of them don't, which is tough because, if half of those teams were in the East, they'd make it, no doubt. But that's not the way it is. So, that basically sums up my thoughts on the Trailblazers. The Timberwolves are in a very similar spot. They're 13-13. So they have, they're 2 games back of the Trailblazers. They're sitting at 10th seed right now. So not really sure what to think about them. They've been playing well since they traded Jimmy Butler away. I think that was it got that monkey off their back. They got good players back for him, players that are, productive at this stage in their career. They'll be able to give them good minutes for, this year and years to come. And Covington and Saric, both very solid wings. Timberwolves are sitting there. I have the Pelicans. They're also even 500 record. They're 14-14, so they played 2 more games than the T-Wolves, but same outcomes. Pelicans are really in a very, very similar spot to Minnesota here. They're not great, but they're not terrible. Got to play a little better than this to make the playoffs, but with Anthony Davis, I think they can probably make that happen. They also have Mirotic, Julius Randle. Elfrid Payton's been out for a while with a broken finger. I'm not sure when he's coming back, but they could definitely use him to make a little bit of a push here. There were a couple rumors last week that the Lakers were looking for Anthony Davis, but right now I don't see that coming to light, at least not this season. It seems like the Pelicans, if I was them, I wouldn't trade Anthony Davis. He's too good of a player to trade away. That's it. Like, he's a top 5, top 7 player in the league. At the very worst, he's top 10. So trading away a player like that is just a little bit much for me. Even if you don't have a team around him, he's still young. So you can build something. That's for another day. I also have the Spurs. They're 13-14, right in the middle of that logjam. I'll just group the Jazz in there too. The Jazz are 13-14. They played tonight. The Spurs won. I don't really know what to think of either of these 2 teams. A while ago I said I thought that the Jazz could potentially be the second best team in the West right now. They're not doing that. They've, struggled when you might not expect them to. Donovan Mitchell's having a little bit of a sophomore slump. He's scoring about the same points per game, but he's shooting a lot more. He's being pretty inefficient. Rudy Gobert, he's been good, but I don't know, a little bit inconsistent. They traded for Kyle Korver, which I think was a nice move. They did need more 3-point shooting. Ricky Rubio is still Ricky Rubio. They have Joe Ingles. Not really sure what to think of the Jazz. It's surprising me that they've lost this many games, to be honest. Realistically, that's the same thing for the Spurs, too. Sitting at 13-14, without a point guard, that's pretty impressive, considering they've lost, their top 2 point guards to injury. DeMar DeRozan's just doing his thing. So is LaMarcus Aldridge, even though he hasn't been super great this year. Greg Popovich is still Greg Popovich. I think they'll pick it up a little bit, but with this team, I don't know how far Pop can actually go. But we'll see if they end up being one of those teams that's in or out of the playoffs, and if that 22-year streak finally ends, or however long it is. After the Spurs and Jazz, I have the Rockets. They are struggling right now. They're 11-14. Just lost to the Mavericks the other night. They've lost to some pretty mediocre teams recently, which is interesting. Didn't really expect that. Chris Paul's kind of fallen off a little bit. James Harden hasn't been playing at an MVP level like he was last season. This Rockets team, I don't really know what happened. They went from last year, they were setting the league on fire, torching everybody with 3-pointers. They're at now 16 losses. Their record last season, hold on, let me just actually look this up. I believe that they didn't lose nearly this many games last year. 2017-18 Rockets, they finished 65-17, and right now they have 14 losses. They're 11-14. So we're, barely into this season, and they've almost lost as many games as they did, the entirety of last year. We're about 1/4 of the way through, and they need 3 more losses, and they will have the same amount as they did last season. So that's a stat for you. They have not been great. Again, all these middle teams in the Western Conference, it's really hard to say on them just because it's all so close. All these teams play each other, and anybody could win on any given night. In the Western Conference, you've got all these teams in the middle, specifically all these ones that I just listed, which are the Trailblazers, T-Wolves, Pelicans, Spurs, Jazz, and Rockets. I think they're all about as good as each other right now. So we will just have to see how that shakes out down the line. They've still got a lot more games to play, 82-game season, so that one's going to be, that Western Conference playoff race is going to be tight down the stretch, especially with this next tier of teams I'm going to mention in a second. But first, we got to go over to the Eastern Conference. These 3 teams were also in the same tier as all those Western guys I just mentioned, Hornets, Heat, and Wizards. All 3 of those were considered at least playoff contenders prior to the season. I would say most people considered the Wizards a lock. Hornets and Heat were kind of those on-the-bubble teams for those last couple spots in the East. And right now, where we sit is the Hornets are 13-13 as the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Heat are 11-14, Wizards are 11-15 at 9-10 respectively. 9-10 seeds, that is. So the Wizards, we've kind of talked about them, but they've been pretty disappointing so far. Rumors have been swirling that they're considering making a move, whether that be a coaching change, a trade of one of their guards or Otto Porter, see what they can do with that. Unfortunately, the contract numbers make it nearly impossible to trade John Wall. Otto Porter as well is kind of in a similar boat. Bradley Beal's probably the best player out of the 3, and he's on the most tradable contract, which is not really sure if they'd want to trade, the best player they have. I mean, that's debatable whether he's better than John Wall. In my book, I think Beal's better, just because I don't like the inefficiency of Wall, but that's just me. So yeah, the Wizards have been pretty disappointing. The Heat, as well, at 11-14. I mean, not really sure what to expect from the Heat. They haven't been super amazing, but I mean, you can just attribute that to the team not having a ton of, all-star caliber players. Dragic was an all-star last year. But he's never been that type of player his entire career. He just had a pretty good season last year. So Josh Richardson's been okay. Hassan Whiteside, Bam Adebayo, Dwayne Wade's final year. So a lot of question marks on that team. I'm not really sure if I expect them to pick it up down the stretch. With the Hornets playing, at least a little bit better than we thought they would, and the Magic being okay. As well as the Nets, I wouldn't consider them a threat, like I mentioned earlier. But yeah, the Pistons have been good too. So I don't know if the Heat are going to make the playoffs or not. We will just have to see how that shakes out. And like I said, the Hornets, I think they've been playing better than a lot of people projected them to. Kemba Walker has been sensational this year. He's been very, very good. Yeah, I mean, if he can keep this up, they have a real shot at making the postseason. But yeah, he's, Kemba's great. He's always been great. So we will just have to see how this Hornets team continues down the stretch. They don't have a lot of great players. They have a lot of mediocre players that are getting paid like great players. But Kemba's really good. So however far he will take them, that's how far they will go. After that, okay, we're going to move up to this next tier, which is good but confusing. I was not expecting this from this many teams. I have 6 teams here, and they're all basically teams that I projected to not make the playoffs before the season, or at least not come close. I think there's only one team in here that I actually had in my playoff picture last year. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look and listen to those old episodes and see what I had decided on the Pistons. But right now, I guess I'll just go over this. What do I have? I have 4 teams from the West and 2 from the East. So we have the Clippers, Grizzlies, Mavericks, and Kings. All sitting comfortably in that playoff hunt in the Western Conference. Clippers are the 4 seed at 16-9. They're the biggest surprise of the season so far. Grizzlies just 1 game behind them of 15-10. Mavericks have been playing super well lately. Luka Doncic is amazing at 13-11. The Kings are just a half game back at 13-12. So 3 out of the 4 of those teams are in the playoffs right now. If the season ended today, the Mavericks, Clippers, and Grizzlies would all be in the playoffs. Kings are just a half game out. Safe to say I did not see that coming, especially on the Kings side of things. I think I did mention that the Grizzlies could make some noise if healthy. The Clippers, I didn't think they were that good, but I knew that they had, a lot of nice, solid rotation players. I was kind of expecting them to be Heat West, like a version of the Heat in the Western Conference. Just a bunch of okay players, but nobody really amazing. But Tobias Harris has kind of taken over. He's been playing at an all-star level so far, as well as Montrezl Harrell has been very good. Just a bunch of, a collection of guys. Lou Williams has been nice. Pat Bev. Just a collection of players that have all been, playing at a very high level, contributing everything that they can to kind of get this team to where it's at. They're the best team in LA right now. If it's only by a half a game, though. Lakers have been kind of playing a little bit better lately, but yeah. So we have the Clippers. That's definitely a surprise to me. I did not see them as this good. Grizzlies, I did mention that I thought they would be good if they're healthy. They have been healthy. Mike Conley's been great. Marc Gasol has also been great. They have a lot of nice, good rotation players. I think they have a good coach now as well. Not that Fizdale wasn't good, but they also have a good coach. I think it's who is it? JB Bickerstaff. I could be wrong. Grizzlies coach. But yeah, Grizzlies have definitely been surprising. It is JB Bickerstaff. So didn't expect that, but as long as they can stay healthy, I think they'll stay in the playoff race. They have 2 borderline all-star players, and they play hard and good defense. We'll have to see how that shakes out. Mavericks have been on a bit of a tear lately. They've won. I'm not exactly sure of the stat, but they've won. Their past 7 or 8 games, they've been playing really well. Doncic has been going off. If he keeps playing like this, he's going to be Rookie of the Year and maybe an All-Star too. Hit a game winner against the Rockets the other night. Ice cold step back 3. Had an 11-0 run by himself to seal the victory. Holy cow, dude! Luke is amazing. But maybe that's a video for another day. But right now the Mavericks are definitely a threat to make the playoffs, and as are the Kings. I don't know. I don't know about the Kings, man. Before the season, I thought they were the worst team in the league. Dead wrong on that one. Freezing cold take right there. But I mean, I'm not really going to be too hard on myself for that one because with the information that we had at the time, that was kind of a common opinion. I feel like that the Grizzlies were going to be terrible, or not the Grizzlies, the Kings. But man, I don't know. I don't know why they've been so good. I guess it's Bielitsa. What is Zach Randolph? Does he even do anything anymore? I haven't watched too many Kings games. But yeah, I don't know. Kings just play hard, I guess. They've been pretty solid. Yeah, he does play. Zach Randolph, or no? Did he retire? No, guess he hasn't played this year. Anyway. Yeah, Kings have been good, which is weird. They're 13-12. Okay, moving on. I've worn that one out a little bit. Okay. Heading over to the Eastern Conference, I kind of already talked about the Pistons. They've been good. Blake Griffin's been good. Andre Drummond's been good. With Dwayne Casey as their coach, I think they're in better hands there. And they've been, what are they now, 13-11? 13-11. So, not much else to say about them. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I wouldn't consider them a lock, but I think they will make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. If I was betting, I'd put them in. There's that. As well as the Magic, for some reason, are 12-14. Kind of close between those last few spots in the East. But the Magic, I mean, they started out really hot last year and they ended up finishing not great. But I don't really know what to think about them either. They're kind of like the Kings, where like I expected them to be really bad and they're not. But Vucevic is pretty much like he's the biggest reason that they're good, as well as Aaron Gordon. Mo Bamba, the rookie's been okay. So yeah, not much else to say about them. But that's just something that I wasn't super expecting. Okay, next I have the playoff locks tier. I have 5 teams up here. These are teams that I would not consider. I would not consider them. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess big threats to make the finals, like large threats to make the finals. I would not consider these teams like true championship contenders. I think there's realistically 4 teams that could possibly win the title this year. Obviously, I still think it's going to be the Warriors, but I think there's 3 teams in the East that, if injuries were to happen to Golden State, or if something they were to get lucky, something like that, I think there are 3 teams in the East that could potentially win the title. But right here, I have 5 teams that I think are playoff locks, but I don't have them going to the finals. Starting in the Western Conference, I have the Thunder, Nuggets, and Lakers. All 3 have been quite good. Thunder are the 2nd seed in the West right now at 16-8. Nuggets are 17-9. Lakers are 16-10. Lakers have been playing pretty well lately. They've kind of figured it out a little bit. LeBron's taken control. There have been rumors they're trying to get their hands on Trevor Ariza. Like I mentioned, there was an Anthony Davis rumor last week, but I don't think that's happening. This Lakers team is it's just interesting to see how they're going to be down the stretch, with LeBron leading the charge and all these young guys. But they will make the playoffs. They'll make the postseason, and we'll have to see how they fare when they get there. But for now, I do consider them a top 10 team in the league. I think they're a lock to make the playoffs. Nuggets, as of right now, they're the 3 seed, but with a couple injuries, I think they might start sliding down a little bit. Paul Millsap, I think, broke his toe. Gary Harris has a hip issue that'll keep him out for a month. So those 2 are both, pretty solid contributors to that team, so that's going to be tough for them to lose them for a little while. But Nuggets at 17-9, they've been good so far. I mean, they've beaten really solid teams. They've beaten the Warriors. They've beaten the Lakers. They've beaten pretty much anybody you can ask them to beat. They're solid. They've beat good teams, and they've beat everybody worse than them. So not much else to say about the Nuggets. They play hard. Jokic is really good. They have a deep rotation. They're a very deep team. So with injuries, though, we'll have to see how that will affect them. But for now, I do think they're a playoff lock. Thunder, I mentioned that they're the 2nd seed in the West right now. They're playing very nicely. Paul George, Russell Westbrook have started to gel even more as the games go on. They've been better and better, working together there. So, but yeah, PG's playing well. Westbrook's doing his thing. So Thunder are pretty solid. And we kind of expected that one. I didn't really have them as the 2nd best team in the West, but with the falling off of the Rockets and the Jazz, I think the Thunder right now are. That's a for sure. They are guaranteed. But yeah, we'll have to see how this goes down the stretch. Okay. Over in the East, I have the Celtics and the Pacers. Maybe it's just time to admit that the Celtics aren't as good as we thought they were. They're right now 15-10. They've been playing well in their past couple of games, but I don't really know. I thought they could have 5 All-Stars this year. Right now they don't. Hayward hasn't been playing at that level. Neither has Jaylen Brown. Tatum hasn't been super good. I think the only 2 that are probably going to make the All-Star team right now are Horford and Kyrie. And we knew that before too. But Tatum has been inefficient. In a weak Eastern Conference, he might still get there, but we'll have to see. But yeah, so the Celtics have been struggling. I don't really know on them. But at 15-10, they're going to have to do some turning around on the offensive end. Their defense has been really good, as it always is, but offensively, they just can't seem to figure out who gets the ball and where. with a lot of players with raw talent like that. And I mean, they have good coaching too, so I'm not really sure what the problem is with them. But as of right now, I would not consider them finals contenders. If they continue to play this way, with the three teams that I would consider definitively above them in the Eastern Conference, I don't think they're going to beat any of them. They might not even be better than the Pacers right now. And speaking of the Pacers, they're the other team I have here. I think they're playoff locks. Oladipo's been out the past couple games, I think, though. Not sure when he is coming back, but they've still been okay. They have a good team, and I would consider them a playoff lock in the East. They're deep, they play hard, so that's good. Okay, this top tier, if you're paying attention, you know there's only 4 teams left. Like I was mentioning earlier, there's 1 from the West and 3 from the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference teams are pretty much what you would expect. It's the Raptors, Bucks, and Sixers, and from the West we have Golden State. Sixers, I think, are probably the worst team out of this tier right now. They're still trying to figure out what they're doing with Jimmy Butler. It's going to take some time to integrate a player like that into their system. But with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, I think they'll make that work. They have a good coach. They're a deep team. So I think they will be fine in the long run. We'll have to see if they can make a run to the finals. But right now, I don't think they're better than the two teams above them. So I would consider them probably the 4th best team in the league right now. And these are going to be ordered. I think it's pretty. I think I have a definitive answer on the top 4 teams in the league. Whereas under that, I don't think. I don't have a for sure. But yeah, at number 3, I have the Bucks. They did lose to the Warriors the other night, but that was kind of to be expected with Curry back. So Giannis has been playing MVP level. Chris Middleton is also very good. They have a nice guard rotation with Bledsoe and Brogdon. Brook Lopez hitting threes from everywhere. So Bucks are very solid. They have a much better coach now, Mike Budenholzer. So they're definitely going to be scary come playoff time, especially with Giannis at the helm. So Bucks at 3. I have the Raptors at 2. Kawhi Leonard playing at an MVP level as well. Kyle Lowry leading the league in assists. Serge Ibaka, Valanciunas, Pascal Siakam. Raptors, I've said this a lot for the past couple teams, but the Raptors are very deep. They're probably the deepest team in the league. So, and with Kawhi up there, I think they're definitely going to be a tough out. As of right now, I think it's going to be Raptors Warriors in the finals. Obviously, that could change. I think the Bucks and the Sixers both have a legitimate shot to get there. But yeah, that's my opinion on that. And then you already know what I think about the Warriors. Now that we have Steph Curry and Draymond Green back, Boogie's on his way. Trotting out a lineup of 5 All-Stars is nothing to be laughing at there. So that is legitimately very exciting. Once we get Boogie back on the floor, that one's going to be fun to watch. So I do think the Warriors are definitely going to the finals again, barring any significant injury. If Steph goes down, they're in trouble. But we will just have to see how things start to go when Boogie's back in the lineup. So that's going to be pretty much it from me. Those are my basic thoughts on every NBA team. I didn't go into a ton of depth on all of them. I don't really have too much to say on most of these teams. I should be watching more basketball, but I'm kind of busy, so I only watch the Warriors games. But I would like to be, watching a lot more than I am right now, but life gets in the way and stuff. So, those are my 6 tiers. I think that's a pretty definitive way to rate teams. I think some could go up or down. Like I said, the Knicks could go down. I think the Hornets could go into that confusing tier. You could maybe put the Pistons in those on the bubble playoff teams. I think you could slide the Pacers down a little bit to on the bubble. Maybe they're not a lock. You could maybe move the Celtics up, maybe move the Thunder up. Not really sure, but that's going to be it from me. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the DubsIn4 Podcast. Bye-bye.